Welcome to this week's edition of Military Trailblazer Office Hours. Thanks for taking time out of your Wednesday evening to spend it here in the spirit of community, mentorship, and of course, learning. I'm your host, Dave Nava. I'm a lead solution engineer at Salesforce and a military trailblazer. Each week, we invite a co-host or sometimes co-hosts to take part in the conversation so we can leverage their experience, their expertise, and their unique perspectives. The focus for tonight's session is exploring the business architect career path. And so I'd like to welcome and briefly introduce our co-host for tonight's session, Abby Beaty. Abby is a senior solution architect at Salesforce. Prior to her current role, she was a business architect at Salesforce, a Salesforce consultant at Ventus Consulting, and her background also includes experience in marketing, commercial services, PR, and project management. Abby's a Trailblazer guide at Salesforce, and we'll touch on exactly what that is in a moment, and she's also an Army veteran. It's awesome to have you here, Abby. Welcome.
Thanks, David. Nice to see everybody. Lots of familiar faces on here. Awesome to join.
Yeah, it's our own cozy little community. Yeah. Do you want to take a moment and further introduce yourself and kind of share your Salesforce story?
Sure. Yeah. So you covered most of it, really. But I worked in marketing for 20 years before I even really saw Salesforce. And then as a marketing director, I implemented Salesforce in Pardot. That was in about 2013 as at an international disaster response company. And I was so much more interested in Salesforce than I was in keeping up with the latest social media or whatever marketing thing I needed to learn new that week. And so I started hitting the trails. I didn't know about Salesforce Military or Trailhead Military at the time, so I was doing it on my own. Just started learning. I took the admin exam and failed, and I felt like very devastated about that, which I don't know why, because I didn't even really study. I just thought, oh, I've been an admin for a while, so I should be able to pass this. And so it psyched me out, though. I waited a whole year before I took it again, which was ridiculous. So then I applied to be a consultant after being a marketing director / corporate admin for a good 2 years. I applied to be a consultant, and they kind of took a chance on me. I didn't have any certifications yet, but I did have a lot of good soft skills and presenting experience, so I was bringing a lot to the table that was not traditional consulting background. And at that point, I had gotten my MBA as well, which I think helped me a little bit, a very little bit. Don't spend the money on it. Unless you've got a GI Bill sitting around. But then I became a consultant, and I had to quickly get a bunch of certifications for my job. And so I had to quickly get, I think 3 or 4 within the first 6 months or so at my consulting role. And that really got me a little bit fired up about certifications and learning how to, study the right way. And anyway, so I was consulting for a while. I got the opportunity to do a lot of very cool stuff, from being an admin at a company where they just needed, admin support for 10 hours a week, for example, to leading a full implementation for the state of Texas, Health and Human Services. So I got to do a lot of cool things in a lot of different orgs with a lot of different setups. Service Cloud over here and Government Cloud over here and NPSP. So I got to encounter a lot of different products, try a lot of different things, and it was an awesome learning experience. And then I applied to this role at Salesforce, Business Architect, which I didn't really know what it was when I applied. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there. I think that there is a lot of differing opinions about what it even is. It is a way of thinking, just like enterprise architecture is a thing, so is business architecture. So we'll talk about that more in a minute. But anyway, I got this job at Salesforce, and now it's changing a little bit at Salesforce even. So like you said, I'm a senior solution architect. I'm still doing the same role I was doing last year when I was a business architect. So I'm still filling a business architect role. My title has changed, and the structure is changing just a little bit inside of Salesforce, but there's still that need for business architecture guidance at big enterprise customers. And so I keep doing that. I'll stop
Awesome.
There. Pause there.
Yeah, no, thanks for going over all that. And so I guess the takeaway here is, though this session's focused on what it means to be a business architect, obviously Abby has done a ton of other roles. And so if you have questions about a solution architect or consultant or admin or any of the other clouds that she mentioned that she's worked on throughout her career, please feel free to ask those questions. And we're going to touch on each one of those briefly and kind of talk through her career progression. So thanks very much for sharing that. What I'll do now is I'll go and I do see some new faces on here, which is great. I'm going to run through some admin items so we're all on the same page here. And then we'll kick off with the Q&A. So for those joining for the first time, I like to explain the purpose of office hours. And so what these sessions are intended to be is an informal get-together for gathering with both military trailblazers as well as allies, everyone's welcome, to explore non-technical Salesforce career and branding related topics to help you achieve your professional development and career related goals. And so if you're interested in the technical side, Bill Cooler, who's the Salesforce MVP, does his on Friday at noon. And you can access his from the same link that you would sign up to register for mine. And those are a great addition if you want to dive into the weeds and into Salesforce functionality. But for this hour, this next hour is intended to be an opportunity for collaborative mentorship. So everyone on the call is encouraged to step up and both ask and answer questions from your perspective, which will provide additional diversity of experience to the answers given. And so the best sessions that we have here are sessions where I don't do a whole lot of talking, and I'm not really interviewing the co-host. It's where you're interviewing the co-host based upon the questions that you had that you brought, because it's not about me and it's really about you. These are your sessions. So please feel free to own it, and I'll be looking for both questions in chat if you don't feel comfortable talking up, as well as hands raised if you do want to be called on, and I'll take those in the order given. And so keep an eye on chat as well, because I'll be posting things throughout the night. I've already started. So if you want to connect with Abby on LinkedIn, her LinkedIn connection, her LinkedIn profile link is there. And I'll be posting other items from employment opportunities to great Salesforce content, things of that nature. So with that in mind, we will go ahead and get kicked off here. And so, Abby, before we get into your current role, I do want to talk about your career progression in more detail. And I know you went over it briefly, but I'd like to dive a bit more into the details. You started in marketing and you moved to Salesforce. And so what motivated that initial transition?
Yeah, my degree was in journalism, and I worked in advertising and public relations for most of my career. And I'm old. I graduated from college in 1997. So I'm just going to put that out there. I'm proud of it. I really felt like in marketing in particular, to move ahead, to get to like a CMO, first you need to niche down and become a super specialist in something, whether that's pay-per-click ads or marketing automation technology or whatever the thing is. You have to really be an expert. But then to get to the higher level, you have to be able to know everything. And so it always felt like a no-win situation to me. And that I would have to really invest my time in something I was only maybe sort of interested in. And so when the other thing is that I always tended to lean towards the technology. So even when I worked for a sales ops company, we were using ACT, which is an old CRM, maybe somebody's heard of it. And I ended up being the person setting up the accounts for all of our clients. We would do a lot of things for them. We're building lead lists and all kinds of weird sales ops stuff, but business development type stuff. But I would end up being the person that would set everybody up, which was not my job. I just liked it. And so I think there's and even in the Army, I was a personnel information systems management. I was personnel, right? I was in SIDPERS, the database of a million years ago, doing personnel records for service members. And so technology has been a through line for me. I knew that I wanted to stay in technology, but I didn't necessarily want to stay in marketing, and I didn't know how to get out of it. And then when I implemented Salesforce and did my first trail, I thought, first of all, I started teaching myself everything. And then I found Trailhead like 6 months in and thought, oh man, where was this when I needed it? And then 6 months later, I found Trailhead Military. And there's so many resources to help me. Whereas in marketing, I could never ask anyone my questions. I would have a million questions and no one to ask. And then here comes Salesforce, and I can just go hey, hashtag AskForce, how do I do this on Twitter? And somebody would help me. And so it's just such a different feeling of I'm not alone. I'm not, there is help out there and I can find what I need to do my job. So totally different feeling. And then I kind of never looked back. And so in my 40s, I switched careers. I kind of went all in on Salesforce, and it served me well so far. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And I graduated in '99, so I'm right there with you. And also joined the Salesforce ecosystem in my 40s after getting out of the military.
Yeah.
And one of the first things I noticed was how incredibly supportive the community is, how willing people are to spend time to answer questions. And genuinely, they just want to help you succeed and see you do well, which is, it's unique in that way. Elio, did you have a question or comment, sir?
I do. Just a quick one, Abby. You mentioned that you applied at Salesforce. Did you just straight out applied, or did you work through your network? What was that process like?
I will say I probably applied 6 times over the course of 4 years to various jobs. Some I was qualified for, and some I absolutely was not qualified for. The beginning ones I wasn't qualified for. So when I applied to this job, I didn't ask for a referral. I didn't know anybody. And I didn't know any Salesforce employees at that point. And maybe I met 1 or 2 people at Texas Dreamin', but I still was a little bit like, I'm not going to bother them because they work at Salesforce, And so I didn't feel comfortable asking. And I'll just tell everybody on this call that that's silly. I should have asked. They would have done it in a second. And I don't know why I didn't, but no, I didn't use any contacts. I just applied and, went through the process.
Yeah, it's funny how quick sometimes we are to defeat ourselves.
Oh,
I have a similar story where Salesforce asked me if I wanted to interview, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to do it. And my wife was like, "Are you crazy?" Because that's all I've been talking about for the past couple of years. But it was a question of loyalty to my current company, and I was very happy with them. But that, doesn't really factor into it. What you need to focus on, obviously, is your career progression and what's best for you, not necessarily what's best for the company all the time. Obviously, you want to do a good job, but at the end of the day, you have to focus on your development, and the rest will take care of itself. So, but that's interesting. Lina, you've got a question or comment.
I was the same way, David. When Salesforce approached me twice, I was like, nope, because I didn't think I was good enough. So I wanted to stay loyal with my company, but also I was questioning myself. Like, no, they're all expertise. They're the high roller. I'm just not good enough at all. So I'm not even going to put myself there. So I was the same way, but go for it, guys. You have nothing to lose. We're here to support you.
Yeah, for sure.
On what you're saying, David, is that I had a boss one time say, no one is irreplaceable. And when he said it, I thought, that's rude. But actually what he's saying is, you need to take a break, take a break. If you find an opportunity that's better for you, go get it. He was saying, you're doing a great job here, but we're not going to sync without you. And so when you have that feeling of like, I can't let these people down, that's great. And make sure you leave on good terms and close out your work and hand off. But also don't not chase a dream because you feel an obligation to somebody else. No one is irreplaceable. I thought that was good.
Yeah. That's a great point. And to your point, there is definitely a way to go about switching roles and or careers where you're not burning a bridge, so that if you need to come back, which may happen, you can do that. And so I guess I want to touch on your initial career path selection. So when you were looking at becoming a consultant in the Salesforce world, what motivated that decision as opposed to all the other roles? Because one of the things that we tackle quite often, and honestly, one of the reasons why this form exists is to help people pick that first role. And so kind of getting your insight into the thought process that was taking place might help some of the folks out there.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad you asked that because kind of following on Elio's question, I did use my network on that first consultant job. I went to a Circles of Success event that they had in Houston that was before COVID, and it was sponsored by Ventas Consulting. And so I met the owner and the VP of sales and a couple other team members from Ventas at this event. And I was just there, you know, trying to learn how to use Salesforce better for my company as an admin. And I kept their business cards. I connected with that VP of sales. His name is Scott Yarmouth. He's an awesome guy. On LinkedIn, I stayed connected to him for 2 years. And then when I was thinking, I think I want to give consulting a try, I just wrote a letter to the owner, Richard, who I had met briefly, but I mentioned that I kept in touch with Scott and I can see the great work they're doing. And he gave me an interview. And I mean, really, I didn't have any certifications, and I had been a corporate admin for about 3 years at that point, really with just the one implementation under my belt. And, you know, and he agreed to meet me and gave me a job. And, you know, I did a great job there. I loved that job. And I really only would have left that job for Salesforce. So that's it.
That's great. Tyler, you've got your hand raised. Did you have a question or comment?
Hey, yeah, actually, just a quick question. Brand new to Salesforce stuff. I actually just applied, or I just started my Trailhead stuff, I guess, about a week ago now. So this is a great, I guess, forum here that I'm hearing. But I am attempting to go through Hiring Our Heroes, if anybody has done that, for the Salesforce Skill Bridge program. And initially, when I attended the Zoom call they had, they were pushing the system admin as a first certification to go after. And I'm wondering if that is a good track, or is like business analyst something you can go after, or do you totally recommend going system admin? Because Abby, you said, you know, you took system admin, you failed it first time. From the research I've done, I've heard a lot of those horror stories, but I'm not afraid to try anything. I just want to get some opinions on that.
Can I take that one? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll follow up after you go.
Great. Yeah, definitely. I start with admin, and the point of my story is not to psych you out. It's to say, prepare appropriately, which I did not do. I didn't even look at Trailhead. I just thought, oh, I've been in Salesforce, so I can take this test, which was stupid. What's not stupid is you're already joining something that's giving you great guidance, and you're already on the trail. So you're already ahead of me where I was when I took the dumb test. Definitely admin is a precursor to all other tests, and there is not a certification for business analysts. So it's not a place you can start for Hiring Our Heroes, for example. Hopefully I'm not giving any bad info there, but I think that's right. So I don't know what you want to add to that, David. Go for it.
Yeah. So and I see Michael's got his hand raised, but I don't disagree with anything you said. Admin's the way to go. Business analyst is more of a knowledge area. There's no certification for it. But I guess what I would add is there's a ton of folks here on the call that are either going through the program right now or have gone through it. And so what I'd like to do is see some folks raise your hands if you've gone through the program that can provide some additional I guess help for answering Tyler's question. So Michael, go ahead, and then we'll go down in the order.
Hey Tyler, just so you know, I'm currently active duty, getting ready to retire myself. I don't know how far out you are, but you know, a year ago I was finding Salesforce, and probably in very much the same situation you are. So if you want to reach out to me, please do so. But the people here are amazing. The basic admin is, you know, sort of like the gatekeeper of the Salesforce community. You get through that and you'll do well. But there's so many opportunities. For example, Merivis is a great company. Well, it's a nonprofit that helps us get squared away. And if you're willing to put the time and effort in, it's a great situation.
Yeah, thanks very much, Michael. And just to piggyback on what you said, Merivis is a fantastic organization. If you're looking it up, it's Merivis. You can Google it. and they do take Trailhead Military certification vouchers and provide a 1-week immersive all-day class to help you prepare for your exam. As well, they offer you the opportunity to join a really close-knit community to be able to work on professional development, branding, that sort of thing. So that they offer much more than simply Salesforce instruction. And we'll just go ahead to the next person here. So Jase, you had a question or comment.
Hello, everyone. So I did HOH 21-1, finished just over a year ago with Capgemini Government Solutions. I spent most of the last week helping our current cohort and implementing some better plans for a better structure for future cohorts. So highly recommend the program. I'm available on Veterati, a little bit limited with client work, but I'm there if you have questions about that. It is a great program, and the system admin cert is the baseline for getting into the ecosystem, but also to prove that you've done the work and you're not wasting the time of any of the host companies, because you're going to hit the ground running. At least for us at Capgemini Government Solutions, you're going to be on internal projects, networking, etc. And so that's all going to help substantially. It's almost like basic training for everyone. Okay, you've got your head shaved, now you're ready for some learning. So let's do these precursors and get you ready to go. But highly recommend all those programs, and really glad to see they're expanding it. I think the current cohort's up to 80. And just a year ago, I was one of 21 in a cohort. So it's doing great things out there.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Jase. I appreciate that. Dan, you're next.
Yeah, thanks, David. Hey, I just wanted to offer you guys, if you haven't seen it before, but on Trailhead, there's a Trailmix that's building admin career on Salesforce. I'm going to post that in here that you guys can access. Also, I've put in my LinkedIn profile information if you guys want to contact me there. I'd be happy to talk to you about anything Salesforce as far as BT business technology goes. And business technology is just Salesforce name for IT. So that's it.
Awesome. Thank you. And thanks for highlighting, Dan. If anybody else wants to swap your LinkedIn profile links in there, feel free to use that to connect. That's one of the reasons why we're here, is to grow your network. So I appreciate that. And we'll just head back to the queue. And I lost my screen. So I'm not sure who is next, but I'll just call on folks because my queue screen has gone away. Trisha, go ahead. Or Trish, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna speak to Tyler's point when you were talking about going through choosing a career path. You can actually go on there, Google Salesforce certifications. There's actually kind of like a tree that they have it nicely laid out. So admin cert is a prerequisite for some of the other certifications. But if you wanted to take a different route, like if you're a developer, but you can kind of see how it's laid out. And then it kind of explains and gives you an overview for each of them. So I would recommend looking in that. And then if you're going through VetForce, I think, is it just military Salesforce now? They'll actually pay for you to take the Trailhead Academy courses. They pay for those, and they're great. You can either do them like over a week. Some of them, they have them over 2 weeks, but they're super, super helpful, and they pay for all that. So that's kind of an awesome thing that they have for you. But definitely go take a look at the trees and kind of see the career path so you can get an idea of which way you want to go. But definitely, like everybody else has said, admin is an absolutely great starting place.
Yeah, thank you, Trish. Appreciate that. And we'll go ahead and head over to Raksha, and then I'll start taking the questions in chat because those are piling up as well. Raksha, you have the floor.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, David. Just 2 more things that people who's trying to do their certs is to keep eye on a focus and force. That's another thing. Udemy do provide you free of the test as well. And the final thing, this one more thing is when you're going for a job search and you don't get anything, even sometimes you are stuck without any projects or anything, there's called 1000projects.org. If you go into that and type Salesforce admin, and you'll get a couple of projects from there for free. It's there, it's free. And you can practice that way as well. And anyone is most welcome to ask me questions because I've done mostly all of the projects now, and I can help them and guide them if they really require it. That's all. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks so much, Raksha. And I'm going to apologize if I missed some. There's been a lot of chat, which is awesome. So if I missed your question, please feel free to post it again. Phaedra asks, Hey, Abby, you've touched so many different platforms. How do you feel they cross each other with regards to being similar? Also, how are you able to get those 4 certifications in such a short time frame?
Okay, so the first one is each product really has a purpose. And so part of the process of taking all those certifications is you start to really understand Salesforce's intention for the specific purpose of the product, but then you start to see the opportunities of the flexibility of the platform, right? So you can say, oh, this is supposed to be for customer service. Service Cloud is for customer service, to take in support tickets and respond to support tickets. But then you see, oh, but also you could use it for employee onboarding. And, it's like the sky is the limit. And so I would say start with what it's made for first. And then as you get really proficient on each product, then you can start thinking about the possibilities of all the other things you could do. And then just looking around. I mean, like, businesses are doing crazy stuff with Salesforce, right? They take it and they take the flexibility to the limit. And so you could just ask a question on LinkedIn, what's your favorite way to use Service Cloud? And you would probably get 100 different answers because people use the products in such different ways. So that's my first answer. I don't know if that answered your question, but my second answer is I studied. I really use Focus on Force for every exam. I think hands-on in the org is the very best way to learn. And so I have a little process. Everybody's got their process. I know David has a couple great videos on his process. But for me personally, that first failure psyched me out. When I passed the admin exam, I still felt psyched out because I had all this pressure of these other exams I needed to pass. And so even though I passed it, what I did was I did all the trails. I attended a certification day webinar, which I highly recommend, which is free on Trailhead. You can just Google certification day. It's about a 6-hour webinar. They kind of cover the whole overview of the exam. And so it's a great last step. Once you've done your trails, you've read the Focus on Force study guide, you've watched some YouTube videos or some Trailhead live videos, and then you do a certification day. If you hear something you've never heard of before, now you know what you need to go back and study. So that's my process. I have also failed some exams more than once. It took me 3 tries to pass Platform Developer 1. And each time I fail, as soon as I finish the test, I capture all the things I wasn't sure about just on a piece of paper. And then that ends up being my study guide so that I can dive deep into Salesforce documentation, which many answers are in Salesforce documentation. It's not exciting, but reading it is where the information is, right? So I also had to learn the way Salesforce thinks, because I think the exams are just as much about the technology as they are about the right way, according to Salesforce, to do things. And so that kind of comes with experience of studying and learning and taking the exams. But I definitely think there's, they give you 5 answers. They want you to pick the best 3 when actually all 5 are correct, but 3 are more correct. And so you have to be able to discern that. And so it's a little bit learning the way to think and a little bit getting your study system in place.
Thank you so much, Abby, because that was my way, because I psyched myself out and I just thought it was me too, because I took the first exam, didn't pass, and I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? This is a first, but I definitely get it. Going back, and I did do that certification day and then take that week-long course provided by also Military.
Yeah.
But I'll definitely take a look back at all those amazing links that's been going through the chat. Thank you.
Yeah, and just one thing to remember, I mean, it can be an expensive proposition to not pass an exam, but on the other hand, it's a great learning opportunity, and no one's ever looking at your failures. They only ever see your passes. And so don't ever feel like, ugh, one more try and that's it for me. That's never the case. It's always a learning opportunity. You can always use it to do better the next time. So
yeah,
that's a tough mindset. Some people hate to fail. I know I was like that on the first 3, and now I I don't care. I mean, I care. I study, but it doesn't break me down anymore.
Yeah, it's part of the learning process.
Right. Thank you so much.
Great question and some great tips. Thank you, Abby. So if you're not military, right, and you're wondering, well, how can I get a hold of an internship that I can participate in? I'm going to post a couple links here in chat right now. So Salesforce Pathfinder Program is one. Used to be you had to be in a Salesforce-centric location like San Francisco or Indiana. They've now made it virtual, so it's open to many more folks. And then the Salesforce Hiring Alliance is also open.
David,
Yep.
One interruption, sorry.
Sure.
To Pathfinder, if you have not taken your admin cert, this one is a good program for you because it really will help you get your certification. And one of the requirements is that you don't have the admin cert.
Yeah, thank you, Lina. I appreciate that. The other one is Salesforce partnered with K2 to provide a fellowship as well. And so that link's in their separate program, but same thing, internship, providing you with valuable work experience, and you don't have to be military. So I always like to put out all the different resources, military, non-military, so that everyone can participate and get some work experience. So we are about halfway through our session. We're going to handle one more question from chat. We'll grab a quick group photo, and then we'll head back to dive back into Abby's career path. Because at some point, we probably should talk about business architect, or I'll have to change the title of the session. So Tiffany asks, I've read a recent article that making your own Salesforce apps for your home life is a good way to showcase experience if you don't have a paid position. Good idea, bad idea, question mark. So I definitely have some thoughts, but I'll turn it over to you, Abby, for yours first.
I don't have thoughts on this. I have not been in a hiring position, so I don't know how that's viewed. I can see that it's certainly helpful hands-on experience for test purposes. But maybe somebody in the group knows if hiring managers consider that as valid experience. I'd love to hear that answer too.
All right, so I'll wait for some hands to go up. Oh, and Trish's hand just went up. So Trish, you have the floor.
I just wanted to mention really quick, because I was actually kind of wondering the same thing. I'm in the current Hiring Our Heroes fellowship. We're in the interview rounds, and I've had about 6 different companies that I've interviewed with so far, and one of them did ask me specifically if I had any kind of like side project things. So I don't know how much it weighs. I can't speak to that, but I know it was brought up where a hiring manager did ask if that was something that I had done.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I'll answer from my experience because it actually got me the job at Salesforce. And so some folks have already heard this story, but essentially when Salesforce called me to interview, I'd been at PulseSource for about a year as a junior solution architect, and it was for a solution architect role, what Abby's doing right now. And so I went through the interview process, the behavioral, the technical, and I got to the very end, and they're like, Dave, it's great meeting you. Thanks so much for going through the process, and it was awesome. And we're not going to hire you for the solution architect role. And I was like, oh, okay, well, thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it. And they said, but we want to bring you on as a senior solution consultant, which in the hierarchy is a couple steps lower if you're interested. And so a couple things that I learned from that experience. One, they made that offer, and they told me it was because they were really impressed with my passion for the platform. And one of the things I had done after going through my use case and talking, doing the technical piece, was I opened my dev org. And I was like, hey, here's what I've been building the past 2 years. Here's what I use to manage my workouts, manage my finances, manage my tasks, right? I don't have Trello anymore. I don't have a workout app. I built it all in Salesforce. And they were so blown away that even though I didn't get the position I was interviewing for, they found another position for me and brought me on because of that. So I can't say that it will always help you, but I can't imagine, a hiring manager that wouldn't be impressed if you've spent the time to build your own apps and learn Salesforce. Because obviously, in whatever role you're going to be in, you're going to deal with customers, right? So if you're an admin, they're internal customers. They're the people that you work with. If you're a consultant, they're external customers, or the people that are paying for you to implement their solution. And what better way to show that Salesforce is a quality product than if you use it in your private life, right? There's no better compliment. So I would say absolutely build apps. To Abby's point, it's going to help you learn the platform. The hands-on is one of the key ingredients to being proficient and doing it every day. I build every single day. On Saturday and Sunday too, because I want to remain kind of cutting edge and be able to very quickly deploy solutions. And in order to do that, you have to build every day. So building apps, which I still do to this day, and my dev org is still around, and I use it, using it right now, is a great way to do that. So Lina, you have your hand raised, and then Elio will jump in.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it doesn't hurt, because I was in same situation. I had a candidate that I thought would be great for my team and stuff, but didn't end up hiring him for my team. I asked him if he had anything else to show me and stuff like that. So he opened his org, and I was really impressed with what he did. And I actually referred him to another colleagues of mine that will fit him best. So it won't hurt. Go for it. It's practice. I still have my dev org. I'm a geeky. I'll go in there and play, but it will help you practice. Yeah, keep going. Because every new things always come out, and I'm like, okay, let's try this. Let's break it. Well, I try to break it, things, David. So I like hacking things, but that's me.
Thank you, Lina. I appreciate that. Elio, over to you, and then we'll do a quick break for our photo.
Yeah, just a quick to add on to this. So I got into Salesforce before certification. Actually, certifications were just coming online. So prior to that, I had several years of consultant work. And the way that I built my knowledge, whenever I became an admin, I assigned myself a dev org. And I taught myself, because I couldn't afford to take the test. We didn't have Trailhead back then, or military Salesforce, and I didn't have the funds. So whenever I had a job as an admin, I would actually assign an org. So now that we have Trailhead, just like what you all heard from David and everybody else, you can self-teach yourself. And Trailhead now, YouTube, I mean, it's incredible. So I just, want to let you know that there's a lot of tools to showcase what you're capable of, not necessarily that you have to be in a job for X many years. Those days are over. I mean, it's 2022, and I think it's really up to us to build those skills ourselves, whether it's in a formal job or on the side as part of a formal job.
Yeah, great points. Thank you, Elio. And I will say that I also pulled out my dev org during my solution engineer interview, and same effect. And I've showed it to numerous customers, because again, what better way to say that your platform is a quality platform than if you as an employee use your own products? What we'll do here is I'm going to go ahead and skip around in the topics just a little bit, and move on to later in your career, Abby. And so if you could talk about, I guess, initially, what motivated your transition from consultant to business architect, and then how did that consulting role prepare you to assume the business architect role?
Sure. So when I applied to the job, I don't even know if it was listed as business architect. I think it was maybe, no, it was, never mind. So the way it was presented to me was that I would be working with, basically I would be a process person working with a technical person. That's usually how the teams are set up, that there's a program architect and a business architect, maybe more, maybe you're by yourself. And so you would be at a customer, a large enterprise customer in my case, and you would have a small team that would be in an advisory capacity. So that's the Salesforce job. As a consulting partner, I was kind of everything to the customer. And so I was the project manager, process person, technical person. I didn't have to know all the answers. I always had a team behind me that I could go and ask questions to, but I was always the point person. And so I was very comfortable in that role. And I had led projects from start to finish, discovery all the way through to delivery and training and presenting documentation for them to keep forever and update. So at Salesforce, what I was really interested in is that it was the next level. Ventas is a mid-size niche consulting firm. Well, it was when I was there. It's much bigger now, actually. And so most of our customers were kind of mid-level. The state of Texas was our biggest customer when I was there. Now they have much bigger customers, I already know. But when I was there, and so I was looking for that enterprise level experience, right? The orgs with 20,000 users or 100,000 users or whatever. And so I was really excited to come to Salesforce and be able to do that same consulting work where I'm advising the customer. I'm a trusted advisor who knows the product and is good at business processes and could help them either move from old technology to new technology or just use Salesforce better. And so that's what the job is. And that is how it was sold to me, and what I have done with it too.
Yeah, that helps. I appreciate it. Can you walk us through a typical day in the life of a business architect, or really, because I'm sure your days differ, maybe a typical week and kind of the things that you do, the challenges you face, maybe the team members that you work with across the Salesforce organization?
Sure. I have really had a mix. I've been on 3 different projects since I've been at Salesforce, so it's been a mixed bag of stuff. But I'll just use my current customer, which is a large, a big enterprise high-tech customer. And I'm on a big team, not the biggest team, but it's a pretty big team for me. There's 2 business architects, 4 program architects for sales and service. And then on our marketing transformation side, I think we're up to 12 people, which is a mix of technical architects, experienced designers, Pardot experts, marketing cloud experts. I know I'm missing somebody, but there's a bunch of people over there. And then, and we have an engagement manager, and then I also serve as the project manager. And so I help decide what resources we need. I help the team stay organized with our, daily cadences, weekly cadences of meetings. I have a lot of interface with our key stakeholders at the customer, defining what we're working on, how do we prioritize our work, what's on their roadmap, how can our team help them? And that comes in a lot of forms because we have a lot of different people with a lot of specialties. And so where I mostly fit in as a business architect is I do a lot of shadowing. So they've already implemented Salesforce. They are trying to enable scale. They want to grow a lot over the next few years, and they have a 15-year-old org. They have a lot going on. They're hitting limits sometimes. How can we improve what they're doing, redo some old processes that aren't serving them anymore, as they get rid of legacy systems and bring those things into Salesforce? How do we make sure they're optimizing it and not just taking their old process into their new system, and really take advantage of what Salesforce offers? And so that's what I try to do as I sit in and I watch how they work. I try to see where are we missing a trick, basically. How can we use the product the best way? And then what processes for people do we need in order for them to do it for the long haul, right? Do we need more training? Do we need some change management? And so I try to identify those things that might be missing pieces beyond the technical that will help them really be successful.
So is a good way to think about it, to compare it to your consulting role, that as a consultant, you were very tactical in the weeds and implementing all the features, whereas as a business architect, you're more at the strategic level where you are looking across the enterprise to see how best to optimize the current solution?
Yes, both of those. And also, as a consultant, you're often working with a very clear scope. And as a business architect, I have not had a scope yet. And so it is a lot bigger. It's a lot more open for me to step in and say, this is what I think you need. And I have to be able to present that in a way that makes sense in order to get them to pick it up or not, right? And then I have to understand maybe why they don't want to do that right now. And so it's a lot more open and definitely more strategic. And I spend a lot of time connecting dots across all of our work streams, but also all the other things going on at the customer. I always keep my ear to the ground. I ask a million questions, and that really serves me well. Actually, my journalism background is like key because I'm very curious, and my questioning ability really gets me far with the customer.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. Making that comparison is very helpful to the journalism background. Yeah. I wanted to ask a follow-on question. So I guess for those who may be interested in the business architect career path, how would you recommend they get started? I don't know if there's a typical career progression of successive roles before a person is well equipped to be a business architect, but what guidance would you give?
That's a tricky one because there are some professional certifications. There is like association of, or there's a business architect Center of Excellence or something like that. You could Google it. There's a whole bunch of organizations. I haven't seen anything that really takes hold in my colleagues, for example. You know, not like a CPA, that's a clear designation, or a PMP, that's something you need maybe to be a project manager. There's not such a clear-cut thing for business architects. So what I will say is that think about what you're most interested in. If you're most interested in the tactical, technical design elements, you know, you can have a functional, let me use words that'll apply to everybody. You can make a whole career designing systems and not be a developer if you are more technically minded. I am more process minded. And so I think that for business architects, I think that's really key, is to be able to ask good questions and relate it not just to the technical, but also to the processes that affect people. Because just like a technical system has processes, a business has processes. And that's kind of what business architecture is. So if you were wanting to do it, there's actually great courses on LinkedIn. What is business architecture? To get a little background on LinkedIn Learning. There's a lot of YouTube videos and stuff. You can read about it. And really, it's just a framework. And I think any kind of consulting experience would serve you well. And if strategy is something that you want to improve on, again, there's a lot of resources out there to be more of a strategic thinker. So it's certainly something you could develop. I think that's it.
That's great. I was looking for that course, and I don't know if this is it, but this is offered on LinkedIn. It's Business Analysis Foundations and Competencies. So maybe take a look.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's definitely one on business architecture. It might be inside that one.
Okay.
There's like a, yeah.
Yeah. So do some searching around for that. But I appreciate that clarity. There's a question from chat. Julius asks, do you do any application portfolio management, APM, for the business orgs?
Not really. You know, honestly, I'm an advisor and they already have full staffs in place running their whole platform. And so we might weigh in and say, we think this product might help you more than that product, or here's another place you could be using this product that you already have. But they really already have that point of view. And I haven't been on a project where they've been asking those questions personally, but I have seen that in other places that that might be a question you need to work on. Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
So you've talked a little bit about what you're doing as a solution architect and how it's similar to business architecture. We've talked about your consultant role and about being an admin. Let me ask a quick question, then I'll turn it over to Fedor, who has a question as well, or comment. What's been your favorite role so far and why?
There's definitely things about each one that I've loved. Kind of like what Elio was saying, when I was an admin, I had to build everything myself first and learn how to do it all. There was no resource for me except for Google. And so I loved that. And I loved being the champion to get my users onto Salesforce. That was a very exciting thing. We went from literal file cabinets to having everything in Salesforce for our international company, and it just completely changed the whole way the company worked. And I was super proud of spearheading that. So I loved being an admin and a champion for Salesforce. As a consultant, I loved getting to work on all different kinds of things and with all different kinds of customers. And I never stayed anywhere very long. It was like 2 months here, 6 months here. And so I got to do a lot of different things. And my favorite was that I worked for the Austin Independent School District on their nonprofit cloud platform and helped them raise money, which felt very rewarding, and a very cool project for the Texas Health and Human Services. So I think it's been projects and like the things that really resonate with me that have meaning, bigger meaning than just here we've sold you some technology and here's how you use it, but actually affecting change in people's lives is very exciting to me. So
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it does. It's got to be very gratifying to be able to engage in a project that you're passionate about because of the impact it's having on the targeted audience. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Phaedra, you had a question or comment. You have the floor.
Question again for Abby. Still amazing community. I'm trying to wrap my head around all of this. So I got to speak with Elio earlier this week. I'm still trying to get a track of time. And there are so many roles, but I'm trying to figure out, I know there's a customer success now, project management, which is my area of focus that I'm seeing, which would be my best way in to the ecosystem. How is the business analyst position different? Because I'm hearing so many similarities within it. I do see that everything has the project in there, which I feel like would be like a great somewhat, navigation to there. And I see that, you're on the end after they purchased, if I'm not mistaken, after they already have the, the platform, the Salesforce platform. And maybe Elio, you can answer it as well. How is that those two separate, those two roles?
Sure, I'll take a crack at it and then hand it over to Elio if that's okay. Let's just use my team for example. We do not have a project manager on our team, which is why I stepped in and did it. We do have customer success people. We are also post-sales advisors. So we fill a very specific role that the customer has paid for. And then there's the customer success team, which is they get by the nature of being a customer. So it's not exactly a paid for service, although if they have increased service, whatever, there's degrees of that. But so we have customer success, advisory, professional services, that's me, and then the sales team and the solution engineers who are also part of our three-legged stool, right? And I think my job has components of project management, but I am not a project manager. That is a role in the ecosystem. That is a very common role. And I love it when my projects actually have a project manager because everything goes so much more smoothly. So I think that that's a great way in. I think every project needs to be managed. And so it is a critical skill. And, I would say whatever you're passionate about, whatever is the most exciting thing to you, that's the thing that you can fashion your Salesforce career around. It's totally possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, Abby, we do have project manager roles specifically at Salesforce. For our internal teams. It's a quite defined role and I know several of them who are very successful and enjoy it. And then there's other roles that do some of the project manager tasks, right? And which is also exciting. For me, I worked in that type of role previously in my career as I was getting started, and I enjoyed my current role where I can always fall back into those, into that work, right? To lead a project, to know, what are the requirements, what are the priorities, to advise our customers. So it is something that you can definitely build a career track for and be very successful. From project manager role, you can go to a program manager type of role where you're managing a bunch of project managers, which is one of the roles that I did in my career. I started as a project manager and moved up to that. And then at Salesforce, I have not had a project manager role in my title, but I do a lot of the tasks. And it's almost like, a lot of the military veterans, us on the call, or military spouses, you have a skill set to make sure that the needle's moving, whether you're actually the one person leading a project or you're part of a project, you have the skill set to know how to prioritize and help move projects ahead and how to focus on things that can get accomplished. We all know in technology, for those of you that are new in tech, a lot of the projects sometimes don't come all to fruition, right? Maybe only 80-90% of those projects, but that means that if you have that project manager mentality, you can still move forward and maybe add it to another cycle once you go live. So you're able to impact and influence, not only your career, but how a team works or a company or a group works. That's a skill set that you can build upon. So there's the professional skill set of project managers, and then there's a lot of other auxiliary roles where you practice a lot of what you learn from that track. And you can interweave that in your career, definitely.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, Abby and Elio. Great clarity on that question. We've got time for a couple of raised hands that we have, and then we'll go ahead and close it out. So we'll tackle Lina's comment and then Adam's. Lina, you have the floor.
So just a quick comment. Even though my title is engagement delivery manager, I do operate in the Salesforce. I am a project manager on projects and stuff. So that's my other task, and it is a great path, and that's where I want to go. And that's why I'm kind of changing my gear a little bit from the technical, project management consulting and more logistic, because I love logistic. So if you like that and you love leading a team and being leading your team to success and still like the technology part like I do, I'm staying in the delivery part, and I'm giving the rest people who love sales. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Lina.
You're welcome.
And Adam, you have the floor. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks, David. So I might break it apart into EBU and CBU. So we've just been talking about EBU, the larger customers. There are project manager roles, but they're more financial. So they're more just looking at the financials. As Lina said, the engagement deliveries managers will often be looking at the epics and capabilities and looking at the epics and then breaking those down into the stories and making sure the dependencies. So, other activities of a PM, they would do more of those particular activities. When you're getting into the CBU or the smaller customers, I think you're not really going to have a delivery lead per se. Those smaller teams will just have the Scrum Master, and they'll perform those particular activities. So in the smaller organizations, I think Scrum Master is almost like, wears all those hats. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. Yeah, this episode is, so I guess I'm going to date myself here. If you're as old as I am, you probably remember the Choose Your Own Adventure book series, where you would essentially choose your own adventure and you'd flip ahead to that page and then you could choose your ending. So this is very much like this session where, we started with business architecture and then we kind of dove into different topics and then, came full circle. So very cool. One of the things I like about our group is that I never really know where it's going to go. We just kind of get started and we take it from there. So thank you for that. It's been really, really great hour of dialogue. And I learned a ton of stuff too. Before we do close, I do want to thank Abby for sharing her experience and expertise to talk about all the very many career paths that she's had and her motivation behind, transitioning between them and what she likes best about each. So that was awesome, Abby. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great talking to everybody.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back again because I only got through half my questions. But that's the point, right? I like to come with questions, but I much prefer if everyone else asks theirs.
Hey, David, just a quick comment. Somebody made a comment on the chat. You do not need premium LinkedIn to send in a message. When you click to connect to somebody, it'll ask you, do you want to send a note with your invite? You click on that and then you type your little note. So you don't need your premium. That's just some networking etiquette.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And before we do close, I also want to thank all of you for spending time on your Wednesday evening to come together in the spirit of community mentorship and learning. Hopefully we'll see you next week. In the meantime, have a safe and happy rest of your Wednesday evening and rest of your week. Thanks so much, everybody.